Chips, 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 and I'm not talking about fish and chips. Electric cars are officially mainstream, sorry to tell you haters, and now the next battle is about intelligent vehicles, smart vehicles packed full of AI assistance and capable of high levels of autonomous driving. This XPENG G7 is fitted with its own chips, supposedly 26 times more powerful than the industry standard. So I am here in Guangzhou to find out why this car is apparently the smartest car in the world. Welcome to EV.com. AI is a word thrown around a lot today, and actually I'm going to throw it around myself a lot. This car here, the brand calls it Super AI SUV, but what exactly does this mean? Is this just marketing spiel, or is there some basis to this name? Well, we'll find out in the review, so make sure you keep watching. And as tempting as it is, I'm not going to be calling this a Model Y killer. The only thing I will say is that with cars like this, which comes in at $9,000 less than the Model Y in the China market and the Xiaomi U7 on the market, people, especially in China, are running out of reasons to buy the Model Y. But would you take this over a Tesla Model Y? Keep watching and make sure you let us know in the comments. So this Super AI SUV, here we have it today, is a G7. So that's between the G6 and the G9, both of which we have reviewed previously on the channel. Check the links if you want to look more at those. So it's closer to the G6. In fact, very close. It has exactly the same length. Wheelbase, it is slightly longer at either end. Now, throughout the course of this review, you will find that it is quite close to the G6 in many, many ways, perhaps a little bit smarter and a little bit more premium. And of course, it has this new updated design language. So let's take a closer look at this new look. So as you can see, we definitely have an evolution, and what I think is an organic evolution of the XPENG design language. So we can definitely see more angular, kind of sharper edges and kind of longer light signatures. So we do have the kind of smart face at the front here, the full length kind of daytime running light across the front, but it's definitely sharper. There's definitely more angles in it, and a kind of a little bit more aggression than we saw on the likes of the G6, which sometimes looked like a bit of a blob and was a bit tame. We also have an active intake here at the bottom of the front. Moving down the side here, we got some new wheels. So these wheels I actually really like, and not only do I really like them, I feel they're actually a great fit for the brand's kind of like identity and the design language. Last time on the G6, they had a new kind of petal wheel design, which seemed a bit odd. You're a technological company and you're saying your wheels resemble petals. This one looks more like kind of pistons and kind of has a definitely more industrial feel. And then when we get to the back, this is probably the biggest difference of all. This definitely resembles the P7 Plus in its design language. So we have this new light signature here at the back, which kind of goes straight across and kind of wraps around here at the bottom. And while we're here, let's take a quick look in the trunk. So apparently this has an 819 litre trunk as standard, expandable to 2,277 litres with the seats down. It also has masses of storage under the floor here, around 120 extra litres of storage space. And another little surprise. So yes, we do actually have a frunk up here, only 42 litres, not massive, not going to blow the world away, perhaps good for storing some charging cables and a few bits and bobs for your car. It's better than nothing, which is exactly what the G6 has, so we do have an improvement there. So all in all, we have a more angular presence and perhaps closer to a pure kind of SUV shape, although I will say it's kind of a bit squashed and probably closer to a crossover in fact, but more towards SUV than its brother, the G6, at least. And it does have a better drag coefficient than the G6 as well at 0.238, although still falling slightly short of the Model Y's 0.230. What do you think of the G7's look, and do you like the brand's new design language? Is it improvement on their old design language? Make sure you let us know in the comments. All right, inside the G7, and are you starting to feel smart yet? Well, this interior may not help because it's more or less exactly the same as all the other XPENGs we have driven recently. That's not to say it's bad, you know, it's their minimalist, it's their style, it's what they do inside their cars here. We have the dual wireless charging pads, we've got the cup holders, we have lots lots of space under the armrest here. Nice size 15.6-inch central infotainment system. Definitely not the drastic change inside that we saw outside the car. But there is one big change in here, which is an 87-inch AR heads-up display. I feel like I've definitely said AR heads-up display before. This one is the closest to AR I have seen yet. It's very clear. Even today at midday, I can still see it very, very clearly, and it is a great driver's tool. We don't have any driver's cluster here, so this becomes essential for us. We still have our digital rear view display, but this one, push a button and it turns off. So a lot of people were complaining that they couldn't see this very clearly because they were far-sighted. Well, you don't have to use it, but it is a good option if you're able to see it. So while it may look like your kind of run-of-the-mill XPENG, this car is so much more underneath. That's right, we're going to talk about chips. I'm starting to feel a little bit hungry over this talk about chips. This car is a milestone because it has XPENG's own in-house developed AI, Turing chip AI again. Developing your own chip is a big deal, and it shows that XPENG is very serious, not just about EVs, but about their intelligent, smart features, their self-driving vehicles. They are one of the leaders here in China, I believe, and their chips definitely show this is something they are leaning into a lot more. And in fact, this car has a computing power of 2200 tops, which doesn't sound like a lot, but let me bring up some industry benchmarks. Why this number needs to be so high, I'm not sure. Perhaps it's just a way of XPENG showing their ability with the chip making. Perhaps they plan to future-proof this car well into the future. So by giving it these 3 chips, it is ready for the next and the next generation of self-driving. Right now, this car today has L3 capabilities. So we are getting closer and closer by the second. We have tested the XNGP of XPENG before. However, you know, a month later, a week later, it actually continues to update, continues to get better. This car here with its 3 chips has 15 more intelligent, smart driving features. I put those on the screen for you now. It may not seem very important, but one of these was actually the toll recognition system. Last time I was driving the XPENG, I didn't put it in my video, but I actually crashed into a toll because I had it in self-driving and the car just drove straight into the barrier. Fortunately, that happens quite a lot and it didn't actually damage the car. Don't tell anyone at XPENG that happened. But needless to say, XPENG continue to adjust and actually perfect their self-driving functions. And if you have massive amounts of power, massive amounts of computing power, you are able to do this with ease. So in the rear of the G7, I always like sitting in XPENGs because they're quite kind to the taller person. So once again here, we've got loads of headroom here and legroom. My seat is in my driver's position and we have lots of knee space here. The floor is quite high, not as bad as other vehicles, of course. Could be a little bit better for the lanky gentleman, but still good. We have an 8-inch entertainment system here, you might call it, with kind of music options, your ability to control your climate. And we actually do have massaging seats in the rear. So as well as the front 2 seats, the rear 2 seats have heating, ventilation, and massage functions. So we can see here, like the G6, but more luxurious, more premium. We also have these tinted rear windows as standard, great if you have a little baby in the back. Another cool function is a fold down table here if you are looking to get some work done or for putting your laptop on in the back. So the rear armrest here, kind of similar to what we've seen before. We've got the 2 cup holders here, but this one is special because this one has a wireless, not only wireless, but a wireless cooled phone charging pad. This is great, but I'm going to play devil's advocate and say sometimes people prefer a socket, because if you have a socket, you can actually use your phone while it's charging. With these charging pads, you have to, you know, leave your phone there and, you know, talk to someone or just look out the window. What do you think? Would you prefer a wireless charging pad or a plug? So how is the G7 to drive? Well, in the past, I've been a little bit skeptical, a little bit mean about XPENG's driving experience, but this one is actually a marked improvement on the other XPENGs I have driven, especially if you put up the, you know, you put it into sports mode, you put the resistance on the steering wheel up. It actually really can be a very enjoyable car to drive. And this ride can be firm, it can be exciting, but it's also extremely comfortable if you want it to be, especially with the help of their, what they call their AI chassis. An AI chassis, and I read this document and I said, what is an AI chassis? Is this term just being thrown around for marketing purposes? Well, I cut through the BS and found out what an AI chassis is. Basically, what it means is that when you are driving around, or someone else who's driving a G7 is driving around, and they come across some bad terrain or some bumpy road, that goes into the system. And then when another XPENG G7 driver is coming along the street and they approach the same area, the same bumpy road, the car will adjust its suspension just before it goes over. So when you hit these bumpy spots, the car is ready and it makes adjustments to the suspension to make your ride more comfortable. But in the end, XPENG are going to have all of the roads in China or even beyond China mapped out, and they're going to know what the road surfaces are like everywhere. I hope they've got a big hard drive to store all that information on. So right now, this G7 comes in a single motor version only, which is the version I always prefer, for 218 kilowatts of power and 450 Newton meters of torque. So it's like a 6.5 seconds 0 to 100, which is fine. You know, XPENG have realized that it's about efficiency and it's about practical level of acceleration, which I think is nice. Because I think over the long term, you're going to be thankful that your car isn't eating away at that battery too quickly. So while you don't get to choose between all-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive, you do have your choice of batteries. XPENG doesn't list out the size of their batteries, but they do give you the range, either a 602 or a 702 kilometers. That's CLTC, of course, so real range is probably 20 to 30% less than that. So it's still not quite the levels of the Tesla Model Y, but it does have that incredible charging speed. So XPENG obviously famous for their fast charging speeds. Well, this car here is no different. So still 800 volt, still 5C, so that's more than 1 kilometer of charging per second if you can find those fast chargers. 436 kilometers in 10 minutes of charging, so incredible charging speeds there. It also has 6 kilowatts of V2L as well as bi-directional charging. So how about the efficiency of the G7? The manufacturer quotes 12.9 kilowatt hours per 100 kilowatts. Over the last 20 kilometers I've been driving it here, mostly around the city to be fair, I have got 12.9 kilowatts, so they're exactly on the mark here. I've been blasting the AC as well. You're probably looking at around this, maybe a bit less if you do more highway driving, of course. But XPENG are one of the brands which tends to be very conservative about their efficiency, so great there. So how about this then? XPENG have taken one of their best sellers and made it even better, more premium and more intelligence. But is it really a super AI SUV? What do you think? This car starts at under 200,000 yuan in the China market. Will it go global? I'm not really sure, perhaps not this version at least. I think this level of computing power isn't really necessary in global markets right now. For now, the new refreshed G6 is a great option and will be arriving in many European countries in the next few months. The G7, more than anything, is a showing of what the brand is capable of as we move closer towards fully autonomous vehicles. But what do you think of the G7, and would you like to buy one if you could? Make sure you let us know in the comments. Be sure to give us a like and a subscribe. I'll see you next time.